Got my host on. Rex. Woo. Yeah, man. Whole out Rex, man. Whole out jumper jacks.
Year after year, Forbes releases a list of billionaires in the world. The list pretty much covers the exclusive 1% of the population. You name it. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Bernard Arnault, Warren Buffett, along with 2,091 others made it to the top. But did you know that there might be many more? Yes, many more billionaires that we don't really know about. That's because, as Forbes admits, most of the names that are included in the list have huge chunks of shares in publicly traded companies. That means that Forbes can only count what these people show. But what about the money they don't? Let's admit it, the rich know how to make money, and they also know how to hide it. Are you ready? Because today, we will talk about how billionaires hide their money. Offshore accounts. Imagine this. You own a company and you just earned your first $1 billion. While you might be soaking up on your newfound success, the government will immediately barge on your door and demand to take a hefty $210 million from your profit. Looks a lot? That's because US corporate taxes are set to a 21% high. Now, putting your company in countries that have low tax rates don't really help much either. That's because, on top of the taxes that you would be paying, the American government will still get their own share. For example, you set up a company in Ireland. Now, you have to pay a 12.5% tax rate and pay the remaining 7.5% to the US government. So instead of giving a huge chunk of your profit to the taxman, you could declare your earnings to around $300 million. Then, the government will get their 21%, which will be around $63 million. Just imagine the amount that you are going to save on taxes. So, what are you going to do with the money that's left? Well, you can set up a new company in tax havens like Bermuda. You don't need to build a new building, hire new people, or buy new equipment. All you need is just some random address and hand over your trademarks, patents, all the paperwork to that new company. In this way, when the government comes knocking in, you can say that you have trademarked your company from one in Bermuda and you have to pay $700 million for it. So, from your $1 billion, you can declare that all that's left is $300 million. Now, what's great is that the money you stashed away in Bermuda won't get taxed. That's because they have 0% corporate tax. Congratulations! You have just saved $147 million. This also goes to the money that you make abroad. You can make your Bermuda company a subsidiary, and thus all the money goes into it. Some people claim that this is unethical, but regardless of your opinion, that money hiding scheme is 100% legal. I mean, why would you hand off millions of your hard-earned cash to the government when you can simply hide it? Now, there's just a tiny catch. You can't really use all that money. That's because once you bring back that cash to the US, you would still get taxed for it. What billionaires usually do is wait until the corporate taxes are down. This is what Facebook actually did a few years ago. When Obama was in power, the tax rates shot to 35%, and if you are talking about billions, that's a lot of money. So when Trump took over, he lowered it down to what we have today, and that's 21%. This is when Facebook began to haul in the cash that they had been hiding in their offshore accounts and once again started to invest in the US market. While billionaires use offshore accounts as a way to avoid taxes, others are also pouring in their money on tax havens as a form of security. For example, in 2008, ABC News reported that Russians are allegedly stashing their money into London monetary markets. That's because they featured that political changes might take place, and instead of putting their money on politically unstable countries, they can stash their money in England, which has the deepest market and has almost no regulations at all. So, when political instability takes place, they can safely book their flight and live comfortably abroad. Now, while offshore accounts might be the most controversial way that billionaires hide their money, they can save more money with losses. How? Well, here's the next tip. File losses. While some companies proudly flaunt their profits, others are a little bit more discreet. That's because filing a loss can help companies get little or no taxes at all. For example, the streaming giant Netflix claimed that it earned around $845 million in 2018. But get this, they didn't have to pay a single dime in taxes. So how do they do that? Well, since the company is expanding its market shares, they would have to get a loan to sustain that expansion. Because of this scheme, Netflix can report that the company is losing and therefore avoid taxes. The tax exemption might not just be limited to 1 year alone. It can also cover the succeeding years. Sounds really smart, right? In fact, Netflix is not alone. Other companies such as Boeing, Amazon, and General Electric also did this. Trust funds. Another way that most rich people hide their assets is through a trust fund. While it doesn't really hide the money completely, it will make it more difficult to track. That's because some of the trusts can be written with a person's initials. For example, Jeff Bezos doesn't have to literally put his name on paper. He can do it in a more discreet way by writing JB 2012 Trust. And get this, sometimes a full disclosure won't happen until that person dies. Now, imagine people not really knowing how rich Bezos was until, surprise, he's gone. Commonly, states require a person to file his or her will in court. Others require a detailed inventory of assets. With trust, a person can hide or preserve his or her privacy without having to go through all that. Stealth wealth. While billionaires want their own bragging rights to flaunt their wealth, a lot of them don't really want to. In fact, there's a term for that. Stealth wealth is a practice in which millionaires or even billionaires keep a low profile by trying to hide how much money they have from pretty much everyone. Instead of buying the latest car or getting that flashy house, billionaires try to give the public less idea on how much money they have. Why? That's because being rich also has its own downsides. You become an easy target for lawsuits, and people also treat you a whole lot differently. One of the most popular people that practice stealth wealth are billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg and Warren Buffett. In fact, Buffett used to live in the same house that he had purchased for $31,000 back in 1958. So when people tell you that more money means more problems, they're right. What do you think about rich people hiding their money? Tell us in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. You can also hit that bell button so we can keep you updated on the latest financial tips and trends.